Hi everyone, this is Chris Pascucci with SPERRY Commercial Realty Associates, and this is my first episode of Coffee with SPERRY, and I'm pleased to have as my first guest, Tom Fini. Welcome, Tom.
Good to see you, Chris.
And Tom, you've been in this business a long time, commercial real estate, that is, of course.
Yeah.
And most of the all of the senior brokers know you. You've been doing deals with all of them, but there's a new generation of brokers out there. Past few years got into this business, and a lot of them don't really know much about you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I started in commercial real estate about 25 years ago. In fact, it'll be 25 years next year. And it's been a great career. I love commercial real estate, and I believe it's one of the best kept secrets in the industry, in the real estate industry. And I've worked, you're right, with most of the brokers in the market, some of the newer brokers. And I've been somewhat off the radar the last 3 or 4 years.
So why is that? What's going on?
Well, I'm transitioning into something new, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I still had a very viable career up until August of this year. I finished closing several transactions that were pending, and all of them were done by August.
Well, you're a true professional, and I've been speaking with you about those deals, and you're absolutely right. Commercial real estate, in my opinion, is the best career out there. I speak to a lot of young folks that are looking to get into this business, and I speak so highly of it. Tough business, especially for somebody new to get into, but once you're in it for a while, you're proof that this is something that does work and it's a viable career.
I was at a cyborg meeting some years ago, one of the lead generation meetings, and one of the younger brokers at the time, who's not as young any longer, but he said when he found out that one of the brokers who had retired was coming out of retirement and getting back in the business. And it was following another broker who had retired a year or so earlier, and he got back in the business. So he said, does anyone ever retire from this business? And I think he was thinking it from a financial standpoint, meaning, does anyone make enough money that come the point of retirement, they're actually able to do it? I knew exactly what he meant. And I wanted to talk to him after that meeting to say, yes, 100% you can do that. This is one of the few industries where there really, truly is no limit on the amount of income you want to generate if you decide that you want to do that. It usually starts with doing a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
That's the secret. And I know this is somewhat redundant, but everyone says, do the job and the money will come. But that is 100% exactly how this industry works. That's what happens every time.
It builds upon itself.
Yeah,
the longer you're in the business, doing the right thing every day, it builds upon itself. It's a great career. It's something you can do as long as you want it to do. And again, there's so many people out there just proving that. And you've shown it over the years.
Harold Brown from Boston, billionaire real estate owner, was still working well into his 90s and never skipped a beat.
I hope for all of us to get to that stage.
But I mean, it is true. You can do it. And for the younger brokers, I think one of the things that separates commercial real estate from regular real estate or residential real estate are the opportunities. If you think about it, we have an office component, commercial office. But commercial office could be small office, could be large. Our firm was lucky enough to represent several large office buildings in our market. So there's a big difference between a 5,000 square foot office building and a 60,000 square foot office building, but they're both office. Medical office of lately has been a very hot part of our business. There are people that specialize 100% in that. There are many REITs now that are just basically medical office REITs. If you transition, my main focus was retail. But there's small retail, small box retails, for example, AutoZone or O'Reilly's, those type of small office. small retail, I mean, and then you also have large retail boxes, Home Depot, Lowe's.
And strip malls and
Well, strip malls, neighborhood centers
yeah.
are also components of that. And then you have other parts of our industry, such as industrial. You have industrial flex space, you have industrial manufacturing space, you have industrial warehousing space. There are many different parts of industrial. Then you have hospitality.
The opportunities are endless.
It's
in
endless. And so there's never a point of where you run out of ideas of people to talk to. We had a listing on a marina one time. So, I mean, there's endless things.
So, Tom, I want to bring you back to about 15 years ago. You were the original Sperry Van Ness affiliate here in New Hampshire, correct?
We were. It had started, I had been working with Marcus and Millichap, another national firm. And we were their New Hampshire representative, primarily retail. That was their specialty. And we were offered the opportunity to open an office in Burlington, which would become their first Boston office. After looking at it and talking over with the staff, we decided we didn't want to do that. And we were also approached at the same time by SPERRY Van Ness. I went to Irvine, California, to their home office, spent some time with them, and decided their culture fit exactly the culture we had at the time, and I decided to affiliate with them. It was a really good concept, and it worked extremely well for us.
Yeah, I'm glad that you introduced this area to that, because right now I am affiliated with SPERRY. Rand Sperry was a part of that group. He's no longer affiliated with Sperry Van Ness, but his brand is Sperry, and they're opening up affiliations, locations around the country. So I'm proud to be part of that group right now. But thank you, to you from 15 years ago to introduce the name out here. That's a really big help.
What they offer is very, very solid. And it helped us because it allowed us to move up a fairly significant notch and compete on a level playing field with all the nationals. Yeah. We had the technology, we had the resources, and more than anything, it still gets back to culture.
Exactly.
And we love that culture. And one of the main components would be that if, for example, I mentioned a marina, that we had a listing on a marina. I may have never had one before, but there were people in Sperry working in California that did have listings. Yeah. I would be able to get on the phone, talk to them, ask them how they priced it, what their successes were, what I should look for, and I would be provided all that opportunity. The same thing happened with the hotel. Exactly. Their hospitality division helped me arrange pricing so that I knew exactly where to go with it.
It's a big help when you have that kind of assistance. Also noting, though, in commercial real estate, it's a relationship business. So ultimately, our clients are doing business with people, not with the companies they're affiliated with, but the affiliation is a huge, huge part of this.
Oh, it is. Yeah. We would meet a couple of 3 times a year at different places, and I would take the other brokers with me. We'd go to Philadelphia, to Texas, California, different places for these training meetings and sessions. And it really made a difference.
So, Tom, one thing, well, many things, but there's one similarity between you and I that I really enjoy is you're a storyteller. People learn through stories. Even if you've experienced it, stories are, in my opinion, the best way to help, especially the younger brokers, achieve success. And for the longest time, I could sit here and just chat with you and we'll exchange stories. We've experienced it, but it's the same thing. We love to speak these stories to the younger generation, the newer brokers out there, and you're just full of stories. I wish we had a couple hours today to talk about them. So, I mean, anybody out there that just wants to sit down and chat with Tom, give him a call. He's full of stories. They're pretty amazing. But one thing I do want to get to, lately you are an author. You got a book, Starting Over 50. I read it. It's an amazing book. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the book?
What brought me into commercial real estate was I had a fairly large company that was in the entertainment industry, working music, doing music for advertising. And it was a fairly large company. And it was large enough that it was draining capital at a significant amount. And I reached a point where the business was in failure. Now, that's something probably 25 years ago I would never have wanted to admit it to anyone. But again, things have changed. Even the culture and people like Elon Musk said, I want you to fail, and I want you to fail quickly. And that way there we can learn from that failure and build better. And that's what brought me into commercial real estate. I had had my license some years earlier when I had a business in Nashua. We had a tenant who was a real estate broker. And the development we were in, the developer wasn't able to open phase 2 of his complex because he needed to have pre-sales. The bank wouldn't do it. And I thought, geez, I bought this building. It's a beautiful building. I can't understand why other people wouldn't do the same thing. So I had talked to him about it, and he said, well, you know, if you were licensed, you could work with my broker and sell these properties. But if you don't do that, it won't help. So what I did is I decided to get a commercial real estate license in addition to what I was doing at the time. Not commercial, but real estate license. And so I worked with the developer of the project, and we were able to get him about 12 pre-sales. And he was able to open up phase 2 and ended up becoming a very, very successful project in Nashua. And I just had the license. I'd renew it every few years, take the classes. I never really thought I'd use it again. But when I ended up with absolutely no money, no business, and nowhere else to go, I kind of looked at real estate and said, you know, I really, truly enjoyed that brief period of time. And that's what I started with and built foundation from there.
You know, I know sometimes it's hard to talk about failures.
It is.
Anybody that knows me, I've always, not the right word is brag about them, but I never shied away from talking about my failures because they were learning moments for me. And I've had some colossal failures in my 20s and early 30s. I mean, colossal business failures. And if it wasn't for those, it wouldn't have gotten me here to where I am today. That, along with something else that I believe very passionate about, is mentorship. You and I talk about that a lot.
Yep.
That's an absolute necessity for anybody getting into this business. I usually say in a young person, but mentorship is important both for young and somebody that's a little bit more senior if you're new to the industry.
100%. And I'll tell you, ignorance today is a choice in our industry because there's more information out there now than there has ever been. I would absolutely look for a mentor if I were starting out today. You'll learn so much from other people's knowledge that it'll save you years. You can do it the hard way. And you and I have talked about a few brokers that we thought that had everything, all of the right things to become super successful. But as years have gone on, they haven't. And it's because they tend to stay in their own little niche, their own little box. They don't really want to communicate with the larger community. Right. And as a result, it's actually cost them significantly.
Yeah.
But you can save decades just by finding the right people to communicate with. In education, again, I would highly recommend anyone consider CCIM. Absolutely. Getting in this industry. They are the premier teaching platform for people in our business.
It's the right tools.
It is
for the job today.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. It's a great business. We want to talk about what's next. I mean, I have the pleasure of, we chat almost on a daily basis. What's next?
Well, as I mentioned, I am transitioning into a little bit of a different field right now. And it was an event that happened in commercial real estate that is heading me in that direction. When I went through we'll call it a meltdown because that's a word they use today pretty regularly. But when I found myself in a situation where I had to do something, I had no choice. Things were pretty difficult. And I was able to find a pathway out of it through commercial real estate. One of the people that was a client came into this office that we're sitting in right now. He was a multi-tenant, not multi-tenant properties, but they were mostly 2, 3, 4 families. He had one, I think, as high as 6 family. But he was one of these guys from the time he was 20 years old till the time he was 50. He spent 30 years renting that real estate, getting up every day, taking care of the plumbing problems, the roofing problems, every conceivable thing that happens when you're in that kind of niche. It's a significant amount of work. He ended up deciding one day, he's now close to 50, and decided that he was going to sell everything, take all of it, try to sell it as packages, and move that money into something that was not management intensive, where he would be able to make money and hire professional management to do. So commercial real estate was the way to go. So he came into the office and he ended up with $5 million. And he decided he wanted to invest that. And we had the perfect investment for him at the time. It was a downtown office building that was fully leased and professionally managed. And it would provide him with about an 8% return on his money. He had a financial advisor that convinced him that New Hampshire was a mature market and that he would do much better with that money in Florida. So he went down to Florida and showed him all these things. We could make 12, 14%, and then more going forward. He decided he wasn't going to buy that office building. But I liked the guy so much. I said, look, if you don't mind, I want to go to Florida and meet this broker you're talking to. And we can go with your financial advisor. And I'd like to see exactly what's there. Again, we may have clients that would have an interest in that too. So we did. We all flew down to Florida, this particular market. And what we discovered was they were right about the returns at that moment. But as you drive down the corridor, these are expanding corridors, there was a massive amount of similar product under construction. And the lease rates that were predicating the return on investment were probably not sustainable because all these new developments would offer lower rents to try to attract this people. So these very high rents that existed were very temporary. As time went on, those rents would stabilize to more market rents. And it just seemed like a considerably riskier market. Florida at the time was still somewhat of a boom and bust cycle market. Even today it is.
Yeah.
So I would rather be in a more stable market like New Hampshire than a speculative market, unless I were a developer just developing and selling and moving on. Make a long story short is $5 million was able to buy him over $20 million worth of that Florida real estate. We couldn't talk him out of it. Less than 2 years later, he was broke. All the market, exactly what we predicted happened. Rents were lower, everybody was competing with one another, and there were not enough tenants to fill all the buildings. So as a result, more than half of what he had became vacant, and the other half had lower rents than what he had going in. He couldn't meet the debt service. And as we all know, the down payment, the first part of that money that disappears, that's your money. The bank's money's after your down payment. So they ended up in a situation where he was now in the foreclosure stage. I had met so many people during that same period of time that were going through similar things, and I started talking to them to convince them that, look, it just means you need to transition. It doesn't mean the end is over. 50 is not the end of the road. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's really the second half. And based on modern medicine, being 50 really is probably the second half of your life and over. So that's what brought me into writing the book and deciding, you know what, I should put this in writing. There's got to be other people out there just like my client and a few others. I've heard so many war stories of people that had so much and had so little at some point. And they feel their life is over. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's just a transition.
You know, it's an interesting story, and a lot of these inspirational, motivational books, classes, teachings, it's geared toward the younger people starting out. This is a welcome addition, what you're talking about now, for people at the second half of their life, which you're right, there's a lot of living left over 50. That's the money-making years for most people.
It is.
And you're helping that along a little bit with what you're doing now. So look, Tom, I appreciate this is the inaugural Coffee with SPERRY, right?
Real coffee,
and
too.
Yes, folks, there's real coffee.
Even if I had to buy it, doesn't.
that was one of the issues I had with my previous series. But there is real coffee in these cups, and it's still somewhat warm. No, I'm glad you're able to be here for this. I do appreciate it. So thank you.
Well, thank you too, and good luck on your new endeavor.
Thank you.
I don't think you're going to have a problem. I know Rand SPERRY.
I'm having the time of my life. You say over 50. Yes, I'm over 50. I'm having the time of my life. It's I've made a lot of mistakes years ago, learned from them. And,
so did I.
And now it's time to go forward. So and it's great getting to know you and work with you. So I appreciate that.
Right, and again, you have the right culture here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, folks. We'll see you again next time.